There's a marker on the lab panel I run for clients. It's called GlycA, and here is the wild part. It goes up with chronic infection, it goes up with toxin exposure, and it goes up with emotional stress. Same marker, same number. Your body cannot tell the difference, which means the stress you have been told to manage, the grief you've never processed, the thoughts that you're replaying in your mind at 2 a.m., and the overwhelm that lives under your skin every day. None of it is invisible. It is measurable. It is sitting right there in your blood work. It's not woo-woo, it's biochemistry. And once you can see it, you can actually do something about it with real tools, not just a referral to go talk to someone. Quick but important before we go further. I'm Dr. Carrie Barron, board certified doctor of natural medicine and certified natural health practitioner. I'm not a medical doctor. I do not diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Everything I share is for educational purposes only and not a substitute for working with your own healthcare provider. What I do is help women find what's been missing and support the body's God-given ability to heal. Okay, let's get going. Let me break down this marker for a second because I think it's one of the most important pieces of the root cause landscape. GlycA measures immune activation, your body producing this marker in response to something it perceives as a threat. If you have a chronic infection, your body is fighting in the background. GlycA rises. If you're carrying a heavy toxin load, mold, chemicals, whatever it is, GlycA rises. And if you are living with chronic emotional stress, unresolved grief, a relationship that keeps you on edge, a thought light that never turns off, GlycA rises. Your immune system does not sit there and sort those three categories into different piles. It responds the same way to all of them, which means chronic emotional weight puts the exact same physiological load on your body as a chronic infection would. Hear that again. The same load, not similar, the same. And that load never stays quiet. It is often what is underneath the exhaustion that sleep does not fix. The hormones that feel like they're working against you, the mood swings that show up with no warning, and the weight that will not move no matter what you cut out or add in. Not because you're broken, but because your body has been carrying a burden nobody ever taught you to look for. So when your doctor runs this marker or a version of it and says, well, it's elevated, but everything looks fine, and then hands you a pamphlet about stress management, they are missing that this number might be telling you your emotional life is functioning like a chronic illness in your body. This is exactly what Dr. Caroline Leaf has spent her career teaching, and I want to bring to your attention in this conversation because the science backs up what I'm about to tell you. Your thoughts are not just ideas floating around in your head, they are physical. Every thought you think produces a real biochemical signal in your body. Thought patterns you rehearse over and over, worry, resentment, fear, do not stay contained in your mind. They become chemistry, hormones, immune signals, the very markers we are looking at on your blood work. Proverbs chapter 4 says, pay attention to my words, keep them within your heart, and they are life to those who find them and health to the whole body. Health to the whole body, not just a spiritual metaphor tucked in the Old Testament. It is a direct statement. What you hold in your heart and mind determines what happens in your body. But I do not want you to misunderstand what I'm saying. That's just not a think positive thoughts and GlycA will drop. I wish it were that simple. Thinking through a problem does not always make the problem go away. You can analyze a hurt from every angle, journal about it, rehearse the logic of why it should let it go, and still lie there at 2 a.m. with your mind stuck in that same loop. That is not a failure of willpower. Your mental processes are shaped and limited by how they are programmed and by what you were taught, what you rehearsed for years, patterns laid down long before you ever had the tools to question them. You cannot always think your way out of what your mind was trained to do automatically. Proverbs 3 says, trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not on your own understanding. That is not permission to stop thinking. It is an acknowledgement that your own understanding on its own has a ceiling. And here's what I find fascinating. Genesis chapter 11 tells the story of people who set out to build the tower reaching to the heavens. And God says something remarkable about them, that because they were united in purpose, nothing they set out to do would be impossible for them. That is how powerful, focused, Agreed upon thought actually is your mind, once it locks onto a pattern, a tower, a fear, a worry loop, has real, measurable power to keep building on that pattern for years without you ever deciding it. But even at its most powerful, human thought still has a limit. Ephesians 3:20 says, God is able to do immeasurably more than all we ask or imagine according to his power at work within us. Not according to our own mental effort, according to his power. So when your thought life is stuck, when the patterns you have been running have limits you cannot think your way past, that is not the end of the story. God is the ultimate healer of the body, mind, and soul. Sometimes he heals by renewing your mind. Sometimes he heals through the gentle physical tools he built into creation to support you while that deeper work is happening. Now, here's where I want to give you something practical, because knowing the why without a how just leaves you more aware and still stuck. I think about the tools I use with clients the way chefs think about knives. A good chef does not own one knife. They have a chef's knife, a paring knife, a serrated knife, a boning knife. Different tools, same goal, getting the food ready. That chef does not grab the bread knife to debone a chicken. They reach for the right tool for what is actually in front of them. That's how I think about emotional support. I have a whole set of tools I reach for with clients. Somatic exercises, breath work, thought processing, prayer, reading God's word out loud daily like an affirmation, homeopathics, and yes, flower essences. None of them is the answer. Each one does something a little different, and sometimes you need more than one at the same time. Flower essences are one of the tools. They're not the only support, but for some of my clients, this specific tool has been the difference between actually sleeping through the night and laying awake at 3 a.m. with their mind racing. It's not a small thing. That is life-changing for the person living it. So let's talk about this tool specifically. Bach flower essences. These were developed almost 100 years ago by a British physician named Dr. Edward Bach. We call him Bach here in the United States. He noticed something conventional medicine still mostly overlooks. The unresolved emotional states were sitting underneath a lot of his patients' physical complaints. So he set out to create remedies made from wildflowers, each one matched to a specific emotional state. They're gentle. There's no drug in them, nothing that interacts with medications, nothing you build a dependence on. A few drops in your mouth, on your skin, in food or a drink that you're consuming, and they work at a subtle level to support your body's own capacity to move through an emotional state rather than stay stuck in it. I want to be clear that what I mean by work, I'm not telling you a flower cures grief or erases fear. I'm telling you these remedies gently support your system while you're moving through it. The same way a good night's sleep supports you or breathing practices support you. It's a tool, not a magic wand. Let me give you a few real examples because specifics matter more than theory here. And I want you to notice something as I go through these. Every single one of them touches your emotions and your body, never just one side or the other. That's not a coincidence. That is how we were made, body, soul, and spirit all in one, just like we have talked about before. Rescue remedy, calming essence, crisis blend, they're all the same name for the same blend of 5 different flower remedies, and it's designed for acute stress, the moment right before a hard conversation, the panic after a car accident, the minute you feel like you cannot catch your breath. Emotionally, it steadies you. Physically, it is calming a racing heart, a body that just went into fight and flight. I keep this one on hand for emergencies. It is the break glass in case of emergency of the flower world. But rescue remedy isn't a fix for all emotional situations. It just works well for the major shock and trauma kind of event, whether it just happened or it happened in the past. Star of Bethlehem is part of that blend, but it alone is for shock and grief and breaks, including grief you buried a long time ago and never really processed. Cannot tell you how many women I work with who are carrying a loss from 10, 20, 30 years ago that never got space to be dealt with. It's still sitting in their body, in their shoulders, in their gut, their sleep. Elm is for overwhelm. I love that elm is actually in the middle of the word overwhelm. That feeling of being a completely capable person who is suddenly buried under more responsibilities that one person should carry. I use this one constantly with myself and with other moms. Emotionally, it erases the I cannot do this spiral. Physically, it is often the thing standing between a woman and an actual night full of sleep. White chestnut is one I reach for a lot. because so many of my clients do not actually struggle to fall asleep. They struggle to turn their brain off once they are lying there or if they wake up and trying to go back to sleep. It's that same conversation on repeat, the same worrying loop over and over that goes nowhere. White chestnut is matched to exactly that pattern, a mental record stuck in skip. And when that loop quiets down, the physical result is simple. They actually fall asleep. And we know that sleep is vital for health. The last one I'm going to talk about is crabapple, which might be one of my favorites because it has the clearest picture of what I'm trying to talk about. Crabapple is a remedy for self-image, for how you see yourself, how you feel in your skin, literally. And it is also the go-to remedy for someone who is showing up with skin issues. Eczema, acne, a rash that won't go away. Your skin is the largest organ you have, and it's also the most visible one. The place where what is happening underneath becomes something you can actually see. I think that is one of the most beautiful pictures of God's design. He built our bodies so the inside does not stay hidden forever. He gave us gentle, natural tools that can meet us exactly that intersection, supporting how we see ourselves while supporting the health of our skin at the same time with the same remedy. Each of these is targeted. That's the whole picture. You are not taking a general calm down remedy. You are matching the tool to the actual pattern underneath what you're feeling and getting a physical result along with the emotional one. That's how this actually all plays out with someone I work with. She came in exhausted. The specific thing keeping her up at night was her to-do list. Right as she started to drift off, her mind would snap awake and everything she still had to do the next day, emails, appointments, something she forgot to order. It did not matter how tired she was. Around 2 or 3 in the morning, her brain would start running the list over again. And she had already tried everything she knew, writing her thoughts down, praying over it, laying there trying to talk herself into believing that none of it actually mattered at 3 in the morning. None of it worked. Her body would not let go of that list, even when her mind already knew better. I gave her the white chestnut as part of the blend, honestly, just as a gift. And within a short time, something shifted. The to-do list stopped showing up at night. She started getting deeper sleep, actual restful sleep, not just more hours of lying there, but sleep that did something for her. And that did not stay contained to nighttime. Her energy came back during the day. Her mood steadied out. She told me she felt like herself again for the first time in a long time. That is the whole picture in one story. One remedy matched to one specific pattern, and it touched her sleep, her body, and her emotions all at once, because that is how you were made. I want you to notice something about the way these remedies are matched to shock, overwhelm, or racing mind at night, or to see how you see your own skin. They're not aimed at a symptom sitting by itself. They're aimed at a pattern that always has a foot in both worlds, emotional and physical at the same time. Most of what gets offered for stress only targets one side of that. Can't sleep? Here's a sleep aid, purely physical. Anxious? Here's something to numb the feeling, purely emotional. And those approaches have their place, but they treat you like you're two separate systems instead of one. Flower essences work differently because they meet you as the whole person you actually are. That's why this tool can make a difference that goes beyond just feeling calmer for an afternoon. Now, flower essences work beautifully on the emotional patterns you are consciously aware of, the named grief, the racing thoughts you can point at, but there are deeper layers under all of this, patterns that did not start with you. Emotional wiring and even ancestral patterns passed down from your family line. Things you have been carrying that you never chose and may not even fully recognize as not being just who you are. I'm not going to unpack all of that today, but I'm working on something that goes directly after that deeper layer. I want you to watch for it because I think for a lot of you, this is going to be the piece that finally makes sense of why you felt stuck no matter how much work you've already done. Stay tuned, it's coming. Here's why I keep going back to the root cause landscape through all of this. GlycA is one marker on that panel, and it just showed you that your emotional burden is not staying in your head. It is showing up in your body measurably, right alongside infection and toxin load. That is exactly why this test matters as a starting point. It does not guess. It shows you in black and white where your body is carrying a burden. So we are not stabbing in the dark about whether the issue is physical, emotional, or both. Usually it's both. Here's what I want you to picture: waking up with actual energy instead of dragging yourself through the day. Hormones that are not working against you. a mood that feels steady instead of a roller coaster you cannot get off, weight that finally starts to release because your body is no longer bracing against a load that it has been carrying quietly for years. That's not a fantasy. That is what happens when we address the whole picture, body, soul, and spirit together, instead of chasing symptoms one at a time. God did not design you to spend your days exhausted and disconnected from who you really are. He has a purpose for your life, and living it out in a way that honors Him takes a body and a mind that actually have the capacity to show up. If you want to see what is actually showing up in your body, start with the root cause landscape. It's $99. Order it using the link below, and let's look at what your body is telling us. If you want to walk through the results with me and get your questions answered before you commit to anything, join me for a free live open house. Small group, real questions, real answers. The link's below too. And keep an eye out. The deeper layer I mentioned, the emotional and ancestral patterns underneath all of this, something new is coming for exactly that. You are not designed to carry any of this alone. Not the physical burden, not the emotional weight either. You were designed to thrive. I will see you next week.